Hi, I'm Paul Pstolka, Ivy Masters Learning Center and ivymasters.com. And today we're going to look at Test 7, Section 1, number 40, which reads, which choice best describes the ways the two authors conceive of the individual's proper position in society? Answer choice A. Tocqueville believes that an individual's position should be defined in important ways by the individual's sex, while Mill believes that an individual's ability should be the determining factor. So passage 1 is gender is going to determine, and passage 2, their abilities should determine their position in society. Let's investigate. There's a lot of reading for this paired passage question. First off, let's look at the blurb. A lot of times you get the correct answer for the blurb. Let's say you're pressed for time and you need to reference something quickly. Look at the blurb. Passage 1 is adapted from Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America, Volume 2, originally published in 1840. Passage 2 is adapted from Harriet Taylor Mill, Enfranchisement of Women. Enfranchisement means right to vote. Originally published in 1851. As the United States and European societies grew increasingly democratic during the 19th century, debates arose whether freedoms enjoyed by men should be extended to women as well. So there, it looks like we've got an element of gender roles in that blurb. And when we look at number 40, answer choice A is talking about the individual's sex versus what their ability is. That sounds like it's talking about gender. Answer choice B, Tocqueville believes that an individual's economic class should determine the individual's position, while Mills believes that class is not a legitimate consideration. The blurb does not talk about class. It's only talking about gender. Answer choice C, Tocqueville believes that an individual's temperament. Now, an individual's temperament is their behavior, it's their personality, and it doesn't mean they have a temper, like they're always angry. Someone could have an angry temperament because someone could also have a cheerful temperament. Anyway, the passage is not, the blurb doesn't mention anything about temperament. That's probably the wrong answer. While Mill believes temperament should not be a factor in an individual's position. Answer choice D, Tocqueville believes that an individual's position should be determined by what is most beneficial to society, while Mill believes it should be determined by what an individual finds most rewarding. So the blurb in the beginning does not mention Tocqueville saying, hey, this person could benefit society the best way this way, and Mill talking about what the individual finds most rewarding is going to benefit. It's about gender. It looks like it's answer A. So if you're pressed for time, you read A, you move on. But at this point, you would have read the passage. So you could sign off at this point, but you could also, if you stick around, I'll show you where in the passage we show these differences. So if we look at 9 to 10 over here, we've got actually we'll start a little bit before 9 to 10. Let's see. We'll start with I believe here. That society changes, that social changes which bring nearer the same level, the father and son, the master and the servant, superiors and inferiors, generally speaking, will raise women and make her more and more like that and equal of man. So it says that it's going to raise women, but let's see what he's saying about that in line 10, 11, 12, 13. He says that's going to lead to coarse and lawless fancies. So people are going to do what they want, there's going to be no rule of law, and society's going to break down, basically. And then we go to line 17 over here. And this is talking about Europe, talking about men and women. The Europeans would make men and women not only equal but alike. They would grant to both the same functions, impose both the same duties, grant to both the same rights. They would mix them in all things, their occupations, their pleasures, their business. It may readily be conceived that by thus attempting to make one sex equal to the other, both are degraded. And from so preposterous, which means ridiculous, a medley or a mix of the works of nature, nothing could ever result but weak men and disorderly women. So it sounds like the man takes on the bad quality of woman and the woman takes on the bad quality of man. So, and now let's also go to the second, actually the last paragraph of this one. We find what Tocqueville thinks would be best, what would make the best society. So it is not thus that Americans understand the species of democratic equality which may be established between the sexes. So basically, Americans have a different take on democracy than Europeans, is what he's saying in that first sentence. Americans admit that while nature, I can't see it over there, Americans understand that the species of democratic equality which may be established between the sexes, Americans admit that nature has appointed such wide differences between the physical and moral constitution of man and woman. I don't know why that skipped back down. Her manifest design was to give distinct employment to the various faculties. They hold that improvement does not consist of making beings so dissimilar do pretty nearly the same things, but in getting each other to fill their respective tasks in the best possible manner. So what Tocqueville seems to be saying in passage 1 is that men and women have different roles, even though they might have the same rights. The Americans have applied to the sexes great principle of political economy, which governs the manufacture of our age by carefully dividing the duties of man to those of women in order that the great work of society may be carried on. So society is better when there is a division of labor, when men do men things and women do women things. We see gender differences there. Passage, and that matches well with, should be defined in important ways by the individual sex. The second part of answer choice A, Mill believes that an individual's ability should be the determining factor. Let's see what lines we find that for Mill, passage 2. I went all the way back to the bird passage. So in lines 48 over here, she's talking about without law appointing that one of them should be superior to the other. She's talking about what happens if one gender is not appointed superior to the other. Actually, she didn't get to gender quite yet, but mankind has outgrown this state, the state of one being superior to the other. Now tend to substitute as a general principle of human relations a just equality. So she calls equality just, as in right, as in justice. And picking up here, she's talking about men and women, line 54. And then let's actually skip down here to 62. The proper sphere of all human beings is that largest and highest which they're able to obtain to. What this is cannot be ascertained with complex liberty of choice. Let every occupation be open to all without favor or discouragement to any, that employments will fall into the hands of those men and women who are found by experience to be the most capable and worthy of exercising them. So she's proposing meritocracy. The most capable person gets the job, basically. And then in line 82, she's saying is not only an injustice to take the individual and a detriment to society. So she's saying it's detrimental to society if the best person does not perform the task. And so we've got overwhelming evidence for answer choice A to be correct. In considering answer choice B, Tocqueville believes an individual's economic class should determine that individual's position. Let's look at, actually, we'll look at, Tocqueville does not really mention, let me scroll back to it. Tocqueville doesn't really mention individual's economic class. Let's see what Mill has to say about it. The answer choice is saying Mill believes that class is not a legitimate consideration. And we just read actually here, but to interfere beforehand by an arbitrary limit or to declare that whatever be the genius, talent, energy, or force of mind of an individual of a certain sex or class, those faculties should not be exerted or shall be exerted only in some few or many modes in which others are permitted to use theirs, is not only an injustice to the individual, detriment to society, blah, 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 blah. So she does mention class, but she says it should not be considered. The best person should get the job. So although Mill does believe that class is not a legitimate consideration, Tocqueville doesn't address it. So answer choice B is wrong for that reason. Answer choice C, Tocqueville believes that an individual's temperament should determine an individual's position, while Mill believes that temperament should not be a factor in an individual's position. Like we said before, temperament means behavior, personality. Like you could have a cheerful temperament, or you could have an angry temperament. Neither passage discusses temperament, so that's wrong for that reason. Answer choice D, Tocqueville believes that an individual's position should be determined by what is most beneficial to society, while Mill believes it should be determined by what an individual finds most rewarding. So let's investigate that one more time. Looking at the first passage, if we pick up here in line 37, he's talking about Americans, but we do find that this is something that he agrees with. Line 37. And then in 40, what Americans do, they carefully divide the duties of man to those of women in order that the great work of society may be better carried on. So he's talking about not an individual's position, but rather he's talking about gender being divided in a way that would best benefit society. And let's look at line 72 for Mill. Line 72, she says, each individual will improve his or her capacities in the only way, in the only way in which capacities can be proved by trial. So, again, saying that an individual should be able to have the chance to prove their ability. And so, individual's proper position in society, Tocqueville believes the individual position should be determined by what's benefit to society. He's saying really gender, and Mill believes it should be determined by what an individual finds most rewarding. It's not really a mention there. Throughout the passage, she's just saying the best person should get the job, the one who has the best ability to do the job, rather than what that person finds most rewarding. Thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, click like. You can share it with someone who has trouble with these paired passage questions. If there's any question you'd like to see answered from any official PSAT or SAT or ACT, you can leave that in the comments as well. I'd be happy to shoot a video on it. And click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Have a great day.